just got a prop.
Okay, I think
I can't-
it is 6 o'clock. You'd never know it by the clock up there, but it's 6 o'clock. So welcome, everyone. Appreciate you coming in. We do not have a youngster tonight, sadly, so I'll gavel us in. So I call this meeting to order. And we will, let's see, we call the roll.
Matthews.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Flood. Here. Gold.
Here.
Rutherford.
Here.
Seymour.
Here.
Salter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. So Daniel, I think, is going to be kind enough to do the invitation for us tonight.
Let's pray. Lord, we love you. We thank you for the opportunity to live in such a wonderful community. Lord, we thank you for those that are here tonight, God, and what they wish to express. Lord, we ask you to give us wisdom as we make decisions. Lord, continue to bless our community. And just on this Easter Monday, Lord, we remember what we celebrated yesterday, your death, burial, and resurrection that gives us life. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Join in flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as always, citizen participation is item number one. Is that another one, or okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am. And looks like we have a couple here. All righty, so 3 minutes per person, 12 minutes per topic. You'll probably hear responses at the end. So I think first on our list tonight was Rob Morris. So come on up, Rob. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Okay. For agenda item 7, I had a couple things that just seemed a little strange about it, and I know y'all are going to talk about it still, so I'm just kind of saying things before I get to hear what gets discussed. But anyway, I'm really curious as to, does the $30,000 still exist in the account from the letter that was back in 2013 when this was supposedly supposed to happen, May 27, 2013. How much will renovations cost if we do this? Why wasn't this done 8 years ago? Who's been doing the routine preventative maintenance over the last years? How much will we spend to find out how much we have to spend to fix it all if we do this? From 2017 in a Shawnee News Star article, Justin Erickson, our former city manager, was quoted as saying, right now, he said, the city doesn't have the funds to hire additional staff or undertake major repairs at the cemetery. Well, apparently we have money now. And we also have, let's see, he also said the mausoleum is not owned by the city of Shawnee, nor do we have any agreement in place with the owner, Erickson said. Therefore, we are unable to utilize taxpayer dollars to maintain or improve the facility. If memory serves, we've got extra people out at the expo right now working, doing inspector's job. They could have been working on our cemetery. I think cemetery is pretty important. This is my opinion. The last thing for Shawnee City Code tonight, Section 241, E and F, has to do with the City Commission meetings. City Commission members, and I quote from E, City Commissioners shall not enter into dialogue with the Speaker during the Speaker's allotted time except to ask for clarification, meaning from the Speaker. Just so we all cool on that. After the Speaker leaves the podium and before the next Speaker is called, Commissioners may respond to Speaker's comments, subject to the rules of the Open Meeting Act. Now, I know it says may, and that also means you may not. But with the whole transparency talk and all that, it seems like may would be will or should or something like that. So I think you should talk to people after their comments. Last thing. City Commission will take no action on matters presented during citizens' participation. Gotcha. If the item is elsewhere on the agenda, it will be addressed by the Commission at that time. Questions may be referred to the City Manager for an answer, or the matter may be placed on a future meeting agenda. So you guys, if somebody comes up here and asks a question, y'all can put that question and them on the next agenda, like tonight, if you wanted to. So just we cleared all that up. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is the microphone on? I
I
couldn't
know it is hard
understand
to
much.
hear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't hear
wasn't
much of
hearing.
what Rob said. Is that microphone on? It is? Well, I guess I'm just different.
It was pretty close to what it has written.
Okay,
on.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was really pretty close.
All right.
All right, hopefully. Pete, and is it Carol? Carl, okay, I'm sorry, Pete. Come on
I
out.
don't really need to come up front, because I think I speak loud enough to where everyone can hear me if you want me to.
Hey, I hear you fine.
Okay. I want to take, I moved here about 5 years ago, and I want to take this time to commend the mayor for being open on the next door application that's on our computers and on our phones, et cetera, et cetera. I brought up the fact about the sales tax that was presented in 2018 and was voted on as far as the development of the parks and things like that. I was concerned about money not being spent as of today, but he said it's coming up in the forefront, that he's going to meet with the city manager and present it on it, and I appreciate that. I think that openness is needed through the newspaper, next door, through the website posts that we have about what is currently going on and the status of everything. Put it on the forefront instead of the back front, where people know exactly what is going on in their community all the time. I think the proposal that the city was presented to citizens is outstanding. If we don't put money into our youth, we're not going to develop. We're going to die. You know, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you begin to rot. So, I also like to commend the city for doing a wonderful job during the snow situation that we had here. Like I said, I moved here 5 years ago, and I think everything's on the up and up, going up, and I appreciate everything that the city has done. Now, trash pickup is another thing. Let me say that for another night. But I just want to.
Amen.
Thank you,
I
sir.
just want to express my feelings that keep the good work up and have the openness about what is going on with our tax dollars and things like that, sales tax. Good thing about sales tax is not just the people in Shawnee that pay for it, it's other people pay for it as well. And we need that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty, nobody else. All righty. Agenda here. Okay, so item 2, consider approval of consent agenda. Yes, sir. Oh, okay.
Do we have one more speaker?
I just had the
Okay.
2. Do we have
Sorry.
any other?
I thought I heard somebody say we had.
Let's see.
My fault.
I have 2 sheets with one name.
You're great.
Okay. I'll just make sure I wasn't missing one.
Yeah.
Thank you. All righty. So item 2, consider approval of consent agenda. Is there anything, gentlemen, you'd like to pull off? Seeing none, anyone would like to make a motion?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All righty, so Darren and Bob. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Let's see, item 3, we ought to be up to the pet of the week. I think I saw a dog out there wandering around.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Cole from Animal Welfare. This here is Flower, the pet of the week. She is a Basenji mix of some sort, and she's about 2.5 years old. She's really, really shy. She is starting to come out of her shell and starting to really like being petted, and she walks well on a leash. We have 17 dogs, 3 cats, and 1 pig. We've had 5 adoptions since Thursday and 2 reclaimed. We are having another adopt-a-thon this weekend for from 8 to 12 at the shelter. So everybody come on out. If we have large dogs to extra large dogs. We want to go ahead and thank everybody who's been sending stuff from Amazon. We love the gifts. All the pepperonis are very, very appreciated from all the dogs. And we also want to go ahead and thank out, it's called E2H Life Group from Life Church. They went ahead and made like 15 or 20 backpacks for our homeless people. And we have been giving them out to help them because it has a toy in it, it has dog treats, it has water bowls, and it's really, really helped a lot of the people that have already lost their homes. So, that's about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Y'all have a great night.
You too. Okay, item 4, we have a mayor's proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, so I will run up front. Who are we doing this?
Christina Brown. Christina Brown.
Are you Christine? So Christine Brown, you were with our dispatchers, right? Yeah. Okay, really cool. Let me get these on so I can read, or this isn't going to happen. So we have a City of Shawnee, Oklahoma proclamation, National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So this for our dispatchers. So when you're in trouble, you guys are the ones we're calling, right?
Yes,
to
sir.
get us some help. So that's very cool. So whereas emergencies can occur at any time that requires police, fire, or emergency medical services, when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Shawnee. And whereas professional public safety telecommunicators are a vital link between the citizens and victims and are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the City of Shawnee Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients while exhibiting compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. And whereas, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe, your valuable service should be applauded and held in the highest regard all through the year for your commitment, devotion, and hard work. Countless number of lives and property would be in jeopardy. Thank you for helping our communities and keeping us safe. Now therefore, I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the week of April 11 through 17, 2021 to be National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do for us. Let me tell you, when we're in trouble, you're the ones we call, and we really appreciate you guys being there to get us some help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can we get a picture? Absolutely, you can. You want to do? Yeah, come on. There you go. All right, very good. Item 5, presentation by Lauren Craig, Homeless Services Coordinator, regarding the homeless initiative that we were accepted into. So Lauren, come on up.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. I think we have a presentation for you today.
Hey, Lauren,
First
just
off,
1 second. Could we turn her mic up? Because it really is hard to hear.
Is that better?
There you go.
Now you can hear me. All right. First off, I want to kind of say thank you to the commission. Thank you, city manager. Hey. I just want to quickly go over who I am. My name is Lauren Craig, as said. I was hired by the city of Shawnee as an independent contractor to kind of pilot this program that we're hoping to implement over the course of time. So I want to dig in. Each of you received a kind of pamphlet of, it says quality by name list as the header. You feel free to dig into this. This kind of goes over every encompassing part of this program. Obviously, that's a little bit too much to dig into in one 30-minute session, and honestly, it kind of can be a snooze fest if you're not ready for it. So I want to quickly say that the quality by name list, in theory, is supposed to go through every person experiencing homelessness in our community by name, hence the name there. So the key is that we will gather all of our agencies, individuals, anybody who's spearheading a program that affects or touches people who are experiencing homelessness together in one room where we can best match somebody to the services they need as we try to rehouse them as fast as humanly possible. So quickly, let's go over why this system works and why you should be really, really excited about it. First of all, we know where people are and who they are. That's very important for our public safety and just for information as far as data collection is concerned. We're able to kind of custom fit and tailor somebody's response and somebody's services to what they need. For instance, we can look at a family. They might have 2 kids in the public school system. This program will help us contact the school system, let the school system know that these children are affected. We can meet them with food services, maybe some counseling, get parents better fitted with some finance management, maybe some job resources as well. Ultimately, this is data drives dollars. So the more information we have, the more grants that we're eligible for, the more funding that we'll be eligible for housing and urban development. So how this will work is we'll have that beautiful round table that we're talking about where every community agency, every individual, Veterans Affairs, Project Safe, you've got your Salvation Army, on and on and on. We have an individual from each agency in one room, the big table, and we say by name, hello, this is our person. I don't know if you can see on one side it says that we have an identification. So we're going to identify them and their individual needs. Let me get to this, sorry. And then we're going to assess them, kind of take a look at what services this person is needing. Then we'll move them into the match bucket or the match category, where at this table we say who can provide them food, who can provide them mental health treatment, who can provide them kind of like a physical or a once-over. And then we navigate the barriers that are keeping them from being rehoused. So do they need identification? Are they missing a birth certificate? Do they need help with a job? What kind of jobs have they worked in the past? Let's build them a resume. Let's get them set up for success. The whole key of this is rapid rehousing. It's a housing first model. We are hoping to get you stable, and the best way that we can get you stable as an individual and as a family is by getting you housed. And then we can make the services come to you rather than making you jump through hoops and all those obstacles to get to the services you need as a person. So, let me take a breather. Once we knew that this is the program that we were going to dive into, we kind of knew that we were a little bit behind the curve, a little bit behind what we needed to get started. So our lovely mayor and I kind of dug our teeth into what needed to be done. First of all, we had to go through all of the HUD, that's housing and urban development, kind of jargon, those kind of language and stuff like that. We had to basically learn a second language and knowing those terms and abbreviations and such that would come up in this program. Secondly, we identified some internal needs from the city. A great example of this is when we met with our lovely police department that we needed a mapping system so that way we knew where people were, where encampments were, those kinds of things. We were able to match the police department with our engineering department, and that was just kind of like a nice, organic, problem-solving solution that happened right there by just having meetings interagency. And then we looked at moving outside of our outside of the city of Shawnee, and we looked at people who are currently helping those experiencing homelessness on the ground. This is just, I think this is almost all of the meetings that we've held. Some of them are outside of the city of Shawnee, organizations that are currently helping persons experiencing homelessness in other communities, such as Oklahoma City. And then we've kind of worked with a bunch of churches, a bunch of groups, a bunch of nonprofits, and we just kind of said, you know, how are you doing? How is your program running? What's successful for you? What isn't successful for you? How can we help? How can you come together at this table? Are you willing to participate in this program? How do you see yourself interfacing in this program? And these meetings were overwhelmingly positive, overwhelmingly, everybody's ready to get started. Everybody's ready to get something moving here. So like I said, we found some interagency needs. We now know that we are supposed to be entering data into the Homeless Management Information System. That's the HMIS that you're seeing there. This Homeless Management Information System allows us to collect data and report that data back to HUD, which is very, very important for our community and a requirement from our community. Like I said, the mapping system, which is going to be crucial for our teams that are on the ground and doing that daily service every day for our community. And then we understood and really, really got to hear the need for a resource and services booklet. Every agency has said, we don't offer this, and if I had known that I could call so-and-so, I would have really made a difference in somebody's life last week or last month. And so Tracy at Avitas and I have been really working together and making sure that every agency, every school, every person that wants it, every person that's on the ground can have a resource booklet where they can kind of triage somebody's needs right there on the spot and get somebody help. So that was awesome. Moving forward, we know that there are 3 things that we're trying to tackle this very month. We're trying to put together some policies, some code, and some language on what this program is specifically going to look like, kind of get a memorandum of understanding between agencies, what we will do, what we are not going to do, policies for when somebody is interacting and interfacing with the person experiencing homelessness, and some kind of codes on like how that person's data is going to be stored and collected from the city and how it is going to be shared, and that is crucial to this program. Secondly, we're going to issue out a by name count. Housing and Urban Development calls this a point in time count. These are typically done January, the beginning of every year, and reported by at least that quarter to HUD. We believe that through no fault of our own, a count hasn't been done. We didn't have the resources and we didn't have the help from agencies that required a point in time count. So this really will be the first one for Shawnee and is a huge milestone. Everybody should be very, very proud that this is getting done. This is something that Housing and Urban Development is applauding our community for tackling, because this is a big leap. What this will look like is where we are going to go. Our team of volunteers and outreach coordinators are going to go into every part of the city, whether it be creek beds and encampments, things like that, something that might be outside the public eye, as well as, you know, our downtown area where you see your day-to-day people. And we're going to ask them specifically, how long have you been homeless? We're going to try to acquire their name and some of their personal sensitive data to report back to HUD. We're also going to try and assess what their needs are. So that way, as a community, we kind of know what we're lacking and we can match them with resources. Once we have this data collection, we will be able to enter all of this in and have a great meeting, and that's our third item here. Quality by name list implements this idea that every month, sometimes bi-weekly, you will have a collaborative agency case management meeting. Now that's a mouthful, but what that basically means is you have that giant spreadsheet of people on the board and you look at every single person and you say, okay, let's assess them, let's match them, and let's navigate their barriers. And sometimes you won't get through all 3 boxes for an individual at a case management meeting, but the goal is to at least make sure that every person on that list moves at least 1 box forward. So I do think that we will be able to have our first case management meeting in May if we're able to do that point in time count in April. The April count, I should say this, should take about 7 days total to get through the entire city, 'cause we are a big city to walk through. I would like to, again, thank you guys. Thank you, Mayor Bolt. Thank you, Commission. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you especially to Miss Rebecca here for being so helpful, and Tracy at Avitas. everybody that I've met with in this community has really reinstilled my faith in humanity and my desire to live here. I moved here in 2013, and I just kind of knew that this was home, and starting this job has really reaffirmed that. And I'd like to point out that each of you at the commission have my number and my email address on the very last page. And so I'd like to open this up to some questions that you might have.
Good questions for Lauren? Do you wanna-
So I'm really excited to hear about the mapping system for lots of reasons. One, to be able to locate these individuals. One, in case of need of care, but more so the fact that Oklahoma's kind of crazy. If we're not, in an ice storm, there's tornadoes trying to get us, or there's a wildfire trying to get, something, is always trying to make the world not as nice a place, And so understanding that those individuals may or may not, fire, PD, emergency services may or may not know where those encampments are. And if there were to be a tornado, or if there were to be something, very life-threatening, to be able to make sure that individuals in that part of Shawnee were being checked on. It makes me really excited for that, and I look forward to that. So the point in time count, we have attempted these before, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they weren't. It wasn't that we haven't done them; they just haven't been
Correct.
quite done properly. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay.
There's
And so-
specific criteria that we have to follow, so we
Yeah.
have to know how many people are couch surfing, as we call it. So they might be living with somebody, but they are not housed, and it's not stable. Like, they can't permanently stay on somebody's couch. Then we also need to know who's in rougher areas. That's your riverbeds, that's your wooded areas. There's just the stuff that you don't typically see. What we've seen in previous point in time counts is that they didn't really interact with other agencies, for instance, the public school systems or anything outside of the Salvation Army. So basically what they did is they canvassed the downtown area where you most see the people, which I will say is a good number, but not the whole number. So I believe that the data is lacking significantly from previous counts.
Yeah, and if you don't get them all counted, then the money that you can apply for, you don't have access to that. So we ought to be able to receive a lot more in the way of
Right.
funding to address the
And-
issue once we get accurate information.
And a significant number of individuals who come to Shawnee to use our services live right outside of the city limits, which this point in time count would allow them to be part of that.
Correct. If they're
Yes.
coming into City of Shawnee, we want them counted because, again, and this not only will help serve the City of Shawnee, but also the wonderful nonprofits and agencies that are based out of Shawnee who may not be able to do that point in time count themselves, but could benefit from the data. And a big proponent of that is the Salvation Army, and they're due a renovation, and this could really benefit them. So,
Yeah, awesome. Without a doubt.
yeah. Any other questions?
Questions?
I think my question is just a little general. I enjoyed our time when we got to meet and appreciate your passion for this issue that's so important to so many in our community. My question is a little general. Will you promise to come back here if you hit a roadblock about having enough resources to make this happen?
Yeah, you bet it. Sure, that's an easy ask.
Anybody question down here? Well, the question, just one thing I want to make sure that we point out, and
Yeah.
I mean, you said it, but I just want to say it again, is this is not inventing another agency. This is just a way to get we have lots of good agencies here in town that do a lot of good things, and this is a way to bring them together so that they can all work more effectively and efficiently together. And we were very fortunate to be accepted into this program. We were one of 8 communities that were chosen to be a part of this. You won't find a lot online under this name because this was a brand new creation, but if you look for Built for Zero, there's a lot of stuff online about their program, and it's been very successful in other communities. And I think it's just going to be a very organized approach to a problem that we have like every other city that I think will just help everybody address it. That we just haven't we've all kind of worked in silos, not pointing the finger at anyone or blaming anyone, but that's just the way life works.
Yep.
And I think this is a way to get us out of those silos, and all the agencies that we've met with, and I've been to quite a few of those meetings that you've gone around to visit with them, they are very, very excited about this. So we're not trying to invent more work for them, we're trying to make it easier for them to do their jobs, and they are very excited about this, so.
Yeah, and
And I
that too.
appreciate all your hard work.
Yeah.
Because I don't know when she sleeps, I really don't. She's worked hard at this, so,
Well, thank you again for letting me come here and crash the party.
thank you, Lauren.
Have a good evening, guys.
Okay, so we are up to item 6, consider Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund lump sum payment from defined benefit plan for Cynthia S. Arnold. And Chance, I think you're up.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is a formality that the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund requires. We've been communicated from OMRF that Ms. Arnold, she's vested, she meets all the requirements for a lump sum distribution, but we have to take commission action on that item. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain, but this is simply a formality that they require in the minutes that we have approved a lump sum.
Any questions for Chance? No? Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
sir. Was that a second? or-
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Danny. All right, we have a motion and a second on item 6. We'll call the question. And it passes 7-0. Thanks very much. Okay, item 7, discussion and consideration of acceptance of the Fairview Cemetery Mausoleum. And I believe, Chance, you are up again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you. It came to our attention that there was a letter of intent from the family who constructed the mausoleum back in 1929 to donate that facility to the city in 2013. Since there has been no, I think, movement on that, there's a mausoleum and a trust fund that's associated with an LLC that used to care for that particular improvement on our cemetery, on Fairview Cemetery's in the center of that. So it's really a focal point of the cemetery. At this point, the family's trust that was, or LLC and trust has been dissolved. And so we really have an asset that sits on our cemetery grounds that is, there's an absentee ownership of the asset. So we have to choose what we want to do with that because it is in a dilapidated condition with, I think there's some structural issues with it, there's some foundational concerns. I had the opportunity to walk through the mausoleum, and we witnessed some water damage and things like that. So, you know, without another entity that plans on doing anything with the facility, I think it would behoove us to let it sit there and decay continually. So I wanted to bring this before you all to make you aware of the situation, also to give us an opportunity to create a plan to do something with it. And you know, as Mr. Morris referenced, Justin Erickson's correct from that previous 2017 news article. We cannot do anything with an asset we do not own, which is why we have the first step would to accept that asset and then create a plan to rehabilitate the asset moving forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Brad also has had some more technical, he's spent more time with this, so there's some more technical things that he can probably answer, but we're happy to entertain any questions you all may have.
Okay. Do we want to have Brad come up so we can ask him questions without?
Yeah, we can.
Going over the ladies
We'll
there.
tag team this.
There you go. That sounds good. I just want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered. And
I'll ask a question. Brad, ballpark figure on what it's going to take to bring it up.
It's $1 million question.
Possibly literally. Right now, maybe 600,000 complete total project. I'm working on updating quotes that staff had acquired in 2015 and even some as recent as early 2020. The only updated quote I do have is for foundation repair.
right.
The pier leveling system. So to do that and to do that, to get it back to where it's structurally sound, the concrete slab will have to come out. That's approximately 2,500 square feet. That with the pier placement is just under 191,000. That's the most recent accurate quote I have. Quotes from 2015 on roofing was just under 45,000. The tile that's in there, the terrazzo tile, that was a $33,000 repair, which we will have to place some sort of floor there. So that's going to be removed instead of repaired to properly repair it, or to repair the slab. Then there's some door work and window work that's around $3,000 each. There's some cabinets that need rework that actually hold urns in them now, and that's for the total cost is I think that was $1,300 for that. There's some electrical work. There's faulty wiring. Some of the lighting, excuse me, will need to be replaced, and that bid from 2020 was $25,000. I think that quote was a very, very rough estimate, just more of a budget price. So with that current quote and the previous quotes, I've got just over $300,000. That doesn't include interior painting, exterior painting, or any patching of the stucco surface on it.
I mean, it's a big job. I went walked through today, and Benny, I appreciate your help with that and your expertise, because you've been in that business for quite a while, and that's the first time I've been in there. And well, first thing, I was surprised how big it was. I mean, I didn't realize it was as big as it was, and I could see that even though things are pretty bad up there now, I'm sure that was a really cool building when it was brand new. But but what we're not asking tonight, like our plan, that we're kind of stuck with that building in a way, I would think, because it's on our property, and if we don't do anything, then so all we're doing tonight is decide whether we take it on, and then we have to figure out what the next step is. So
Let me ask you a question. Whose responsibility would it be if it were to deteriorate with the remains that are in there? Whose responsibility would it be to have those entombed somewhere else?
So I think ultimately it would fall back on the city. The association that maintained that, the brothers, they acquired that when their mother passed away, I believe. They had no interest in it or ability. They both live far away, New Hampshire. I think there is one in Dallas area. Neither one of them have any desire or ability. They tried to sell it multiple times, as news articles have referenced, with obviously without a buyer. So that is dissolved. I mean, ultimately it sits on our land.
You can't move it.
can't move it.
So it's
No.
Is it family only, or was it a public use?
it's public. They sold crypts. Some of them have been pre-purchased.
Okay.
So there are some that are reserved for later date.
Right. Mr. Commissioner, I believe when we walked through today, there's about a third that have been sold and taken advantage of. So that leaves quite a number for future sales.
Okay.
And so there is revenue potential for our cemetery if we rehabilitate the building itself.
Okay.
And one of the things I noticed is some of the dates on there, people had passed away so long ago, whether you could even get a hold of the family or not.
The earliest dates being 1929, and then it goes all the way to
Yeah.
2017 or 2018 were some of the last remains that were buried in the mausoleum.
So once that association dissolved or ceased operations, no one has been maintaining that building. I don't think we can we can't maintain something we don't own.
Sure.
And they didn't have the want to or the resources, abilities to maintain it, so that thing is set for the last 8 years and just slowly worsen. And it will continue to do so.
Is there a point where rebuilding the existing structure and the future potential of selling of crypts the cost of rebuilding would outweigh removal and then rebuilding of something new in its place, or would it? Yeah, that's
So you run into personal preference. There may be people that do not want to be buried in another way.
right.
There's a lot of process to opening those up and relocating.
Right.
Possible litigation costs, court costs. That I don't know that I can answer that question, but we are still looking into our best option. We're not saying that these quotes I referenced earlier is the option to go with.
At least gives you a point of reference.
Yeah.
Right.
I just would assume that while renovations were taking place, the urns would have to be put in some safekeeping anyways, you know.
And that is a possibility.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's all just urns. I mean, there's
No, there's caskets.
It's
Yes, sir.
caskets.
Yes,
Okay.
it's there's crypts with
yeah.
with caskets in, and they're 5 high, and each wing, either side is
500 total or so.
it's 5 by 25. So there's 5 sections of 5 high, and then there's some more private, I guess, areas on the ends. So.
Okay.
Yeah, there's approximately 500, I think that is the number, is 500 total crypts. The urns, there's maybe a dozen of those in the front entrance in a display cabinet.
But predominantly, it's like a
Casket.
full-blown
Yes.
casket.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's an antique lift there that I don't think I'd want to use, but, yeah.
I guess I
Tough situation.
have 3 questions maybe.
Yeah.
One, I think speaks, Mr. Morris has spoken to earlier. In the dissolving of a corporation, there would have been no requirement that they give us the $30,000. Did it happen? If it did, what's happened with that funds?
The funds, what we can ascertain, are currently in First National Bank.
Okay.
We were able to communicate with one of the family members this afternoon, and their intent remains the same.
Okay, to transfer those.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we haven't had access to them.
We have not had access to the funds.
But on this, we
correct.
would.
Yeah.
My second question, I think, has to do more with the process. I read it, my first time through, and I read it 2013. I thought it must be a typo, so I read it again. It appears to me from reading through it, this was sent to a department head rather than city, like central. Is that?
That's
So
correct.
essentially, this would predate anybody in this room probably. My assumption would be that it was not communicated from the department head to city manager or previous commissions. We don't know.
We don't know. That's correct.
So I guess
that predates me.
Which leads to my actual question probably. Do we have a process in place, or are we placing a process in place where if something like this were to happen, it's reported to the city manager, city attorney, whoever it needs to be, like, so that we're not 8 years later,
Right.
people are looking at us saying, well, back in 2021, they should have handled
Right.
this. Like,
Commissioner Matthews, my expectation is from department heads, if we receive items like this, that they're communicating with me so we can communicate to the commission if necessary.
okay. I mean, I would assume that would have been the previous city manager's assumption too. Third question, I guess, did we have any kind of lease agreement or anything With,
Not to our knowledge, no,
Okay.
sir.
so they wouldn't be in breach of anything, which would allow us to
Right.
recoup some of the costs we're going to incur.
Right.
Okay.
To my knowledge, no, sir, there's never a lease agreement in place.
Okay, that's all I got.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Anybody want to make a motion?
Guess I'll make a motion, we accept it.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. So we have Daniel, seconded by Travis. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 7.
Yeah, but are they still in the trust?
So we will call the question.
But they're gonna just cut it over.
And motion passes 7-0.
And that, Commissioner Matthews, I'm sorry, to clarify that, and for the whole
Sure.
commission, that was acceptance of the mausoleum structure itself and the
Right.
$30,000 funds earmarked for its maintenance.
Yeah, we accept as the letter proposed.
Okay.
Do we need to re-vote on that, or?
Not as long as that was.
Yeah, my motion would be we accept the gift as outlined in
Item
the letter.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't make any changes or anything, so.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. All righty, so we'll move on to item 8, consider bids, Whitaker Street Rehabilitation Project number 20 SHAWHITST. That's a mouthful award. So Seth is up. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. This bid was open before you guys last commission meeting. I think Brad presented that. And just for the record, we received 3 bids. One from ATEC Paving, one from Wind Construction, and one from Nash Construction. And with that being said, staff is now requesting that you all reject the bids as we currently have them, and we'll be rebidding this project over the coming weeks. We've made some changes to the plans and specifications, and also the way we're getting our materials on the utility side of things. And we think by making these changes, we'll get hopefully a lower, more competitive bid, and maybe even entice a couple more companies to place bids. So with that, I would open any questions that you guys have.
So first thing pops to my mind is, I guess, obviously that's going to delay this project a little bit.
It'll delay a little bit, but we're still thinking that we, based on the schedule that we have, we're hoping that we'll be, hang on just a minute, because
So I know we were hoping we'd have that done by the time they go back to school.
Right.
Is that still
Yeah,
likely?
yeah.
Or?
So we're kind of putting a hurry up on the bid, and we're looking at hoping the project award would be May 17th.
Okay.
So under the current schedule, so that puts us advertising over the next couple weeks, and then bids being due at the end of the month.
Okay.
So that does, to your point, delay construction beginning, because we were planning on construction beginning really right as school ends, but moving it back, I think, to early June doesn't necessarily hurt us too bad with a 100-day construction timeline, so it still gets most of the construction done before the kids come back to school in August.
Okay.
So it's going to be tight, but
Yeah.
it doesn't ultimately break us.
Okay. That'd be great. I'd love to see that done before school starts.
But Mr. Mayor, if
Yes,
I
sir.
recall correctly from our conversation, even if we started the day school ends, we would still run into the front end of next school year,
Okay.
just
Well,
slightly.
that's good to know. Good
Yeah.
to know. Yeah. Thank you. What other questions you guys got for Seth? So the motion would need to be to,
We reject bids.
Move to accept staff's recommendation to reject the bids.
There we go. I'll second. And then Mark. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation there on item 8. And we will call the question. And that passes 7-0. Thank you very much. New business.
Mr. Mayor, no new business.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners' comments. Let's change it up. Let's start with Travis. Go down that way, and we'll start figure with down there Benny. Let him work in.
I really don't think that I'm gonna have anything to say tonight. It's, this mausoleum thing is going to be very interesting working through it. So,
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir. How about we just go continue on with Mark?
I drove through the cemetery, actually, just was driving around, went out to look at Mom and Dad's plot, which is at a rest haven. I thought, let's go by the Fairview, and it looks like they sprayed out there on some of the stuff.
Yep.
The mausoleum is run down. I mean, it's kind of turning into an eyesore for the whole deal. It's a nice area.
It is a nice area.
You know, from a dollars and cents standpoint, it may be hard to come out on it, but the perception and you know, the finished steel, it still means kind of a deal to the community. Positive side, you know, COVID has still stayed low with the spring break. You know, vaccines are definitely way up to where everybody's done that. That's looking well. Sales tax, I presume, still tracking well.
It is, we have not received.
This one. And we've got a lot of stuff fixing to come into the expo with some concerts and the rodeo. So everything's looking good, and we're kind of going into the spring with a little momentum. That's what we got.
The cemetery is looking better. I saw them working with power washers down the outside fence last week or week before. Haven't seen that done in a while. It's good that they're out there working on it, spraying, mowing, so it is better. Yeah, what Benny said, this mausoleum, we don't have a choice, so we're gonna have to figure out how to make it what it needs to be. Mark covered the cool stuff coming to the expo, so I'm good.
I first off wanted to say thank you, Brad, for working on that. That does not seem like something that would be a ton of fun, and I don't envy you in the least bit on you know, making those changes. But it is something that's probably very necessary, and I hope that when we're finished, it could be something not only that that we as a city can be proud of, but the individuals whose families are resting there can be proud of as well. Let's see, Mr. Krell, to your point, thank you for bringing that up. We appreciate that. Trying to be as intentional as we can about those things. Recent conversations that we've had with Chance about the fact that there are so many of these projects that often we vote on and the people vote on, and they kind of get stuck and they move a little bit forward, but it's not really enough to kind of share some of the information because they are such a slow moving project. And one of the things that trying to be intentional about is updating as much as we can along the way, so that the individuals like yourself who want to know more about where we're at on these projects and want to know more about where the tax dollars are going have access to that. And the city website is looking amazing right now. It's the way that the new links and things have been put up. It's awesome. You know, it looks like if I was somebody that is wanting to know things, I could look and click and get to places a whole lot easier than in recent months. And so that's really really exciting. Again, just thank you all for what's going on. One of the things that have been asked of me a lot lately is what our plans are for the mask mandate and how we see that going through the rest of the school year and into summer months. And I know that it's not anything that we all want to talk about, but I think it might be time for us to start having some discussions about that and what that might look like. So, thank you.
I know it's that time of year that there's a lot of things that need to be done, and Public Works, I know, has their hands full, and I've shared my concerns many times. But I want to talk about something that I specifically asked, and I'm talking about Shawnee Mall right now. And I'd like to see somebody, if you recall, a month and a half ago, they came before us and they asked for some opportunities to sell property. And I asked the question of management from the mall if they would be putting money back into the mall and making improvements with landscaping, and they have not. And I would hope we can hold their feet to the fire. They made a public commitment to us here and promised that they would do that. And I specifically asked that question to get a commitment out of them, and haven't seen any efforts of that. So I would hope city manager and planning director and public works and anyone that has any influence on them, that we ask them to follow through with what they committed to us publicly to do. I know, again, all of us as citizens can help. You know, we can pick out weeds from flower beds. I know we have Lisa Hare there that can do a lot of stuff, and she does, but it's really important that we as citizens pick up trash. Trash is a real problem in Shawnee, and luckily we have the contract with SCI, and that's a big help because people aren't helping as a whole. So I would just encourage everybody, please do your part and more than your part, and let's try to make this town what we all want it to be. And I would hope our corporate citizen, Shawnee Mall, that probably gets as much outside traffic as any place in Shawnee, would do their part as they committed. So that's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
A couple of things. First, I want to give my condolences to Commissioner Flood on passing and his family, and praying for everybody, and just want to share that we're thinking of you. Second, Mr. Carroll talked earlier about the people that come into town and the sales tax that generates, and just I think it's important that sometimes we mention in these times it's important to shop local as much as we can. That really does make a difference, and we all like it when Ashley brings us good news, and the truth is we're all a part of that news and making sure that our dollars stay here. I mentioned earlier I really enjoyed my visit with Ms. Craig, and really admire the initiative that she's taking on here in our community, and hopefully we can all get behind that, because there are a lot of people that need a lot of help, and as a community I think it's time that we really work together on that. The dispatchers, I think we talked about them quickly in the proclamation. We're so thankful for them. Most of us at some point have had to make a call, and sometimes it's the worst moment of our lives, and sometimes we're not really sure what's going on, and their calm demeanor and the quick response. I've had to make a few of those calls, and it's always been such a help and assistance, and so just want to express my appreciation. And then Commissioner Flood mentioned it, and I would agree. I think we are due for a conversation. If we remember back to when we reauthorized the ordinance requiring masks, I voiced my opposition that I actually wanted it to go to March 31st. I thought June 30th was too long. Here we are at March. We're just past March 31st, and obviously the auto repealers, I thought we all thought were going to be difficult, and I don't pretend to. We're all going to have the different criteria for how we make that decision. I don't pretend to be able to predict or have any. Everybody has their own things. I thought I would just bring out a couple of things. Hopefully we're all having our own conversations with people around town. I'm certainly having some, and good news. This is great news. In talking to our healthcare officials for more than the last week, we've had no more than 5 people in the hospital. We currently have 0 in the hospital. The new COVID data came out today. There are 100 active cases in our community, which is the lowest we've been in a while, and our positivity rate is now below 5%, which puts us in the green zone according to the state. So all really good data. I don't pretend, like I said, how everyone would vote on the issue, none of my business, other than I think we told the citizens that we would reconsider when the time was appropriate, and I think that it's however the vote would come out, I think it's time to at least have that conversation so that everyone's in the loop and can understand the thinking of the commission, and I hope that it could possibly be on at least our next agenda, if not sooner. That's all I have.
All righty, that just leaves me. You guys have covered a lot of good stuff tonight. I too wanted to pass something on to Mr. Carell. I sent you the link to the report that we get the second meeting of every month that Ashley so expertly puts together for us, and it's so much easier to read than what people had access to years ago, and I think you'll find that very useful. And then there's also something called OpenGov that the city has invested in that is probably by, I'm going to speak out of turn here, but maybe by this fall that's going to be where folks will have access and be able to follow all the capital projects in town, and basically like a website where everyone will have access to that, as well as to our books, which is everybody's business. So hopefully you'll find that helpful, but if there's any way I can ever help again, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us up here. All 7 of us are always glad to help. Again, I want to thank Lauren for all her hard work. I don't know if she's still here, for Quality by Name list. I think it's a very worthwhile undertaking and gives us a good organized way of approaching this issue that we've lacked in the past. And I truthfully don't know when that girl sleeps. She works really, really hard. The mausoleum, like I said, that's the first time I was out there today. I've seen it from the street, but I've never been inside. And I think at one time that was a really, really cool building. Has a nice Art Deco look to it, and of course it needs paint and everything else. I mean, some real serious things, and we're going to have some tough decisions to make. And what really complicates that is we're not just talking about a rundown building. I mean, we've got people's families in there, and they're going to be there from now on. So, you know, that really complicates the issue. It's not just a matter of fixing up a building or tearing it down. So that's going to be something we're going to have to give a lot of really serious thought to and how we approach that. So, and a couple of you talked about mask mandate. Again, I think we promised everyone that you know, we'd look at that, and we would. I know personally the folks I'm going to listen to are going to be the medical experts. So that's you know, a conversation I'm sure we can have soon. So anyway, with that, I think I'm going to be quiet and we will move on. So we are adjourned, and we will go on to the Airport Authority. So item 1 is consider approval of consent agenda. And
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And Darren. So we have a motion and a second. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 2, discussion and consideration of rental rates for fiscal year 2021-2022. And I think Bonnie is up. How are you, Bonnie?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Each year we come to you with the statistical information. Our current lease policy says that we will review the consumer price index rate of inflation from the prior calendar year and apply it to our lease rates for all of the various leases we have that have a CPI index escalator clause in them. For the sake of simplicity, all of our T-hangers have that feature. Some of our commercials do, and some of our, quote, off-airport commercial properties do as well. They're detailed in the memo. This year was not a great year for the CPI, so we're looking at a 1.4% increase. That totals out to be $352 a month and $4,233 a year. The policy also speaks to occasionally hiring a professional general aviation real estate assessor. And in speaking with the advisory board, as soon as the year 2020 passes and we get our new budget, we will be looking to work with someone to give us a robust review of each one of our properties on the airfield. It's not quite as simple as an apples to apples environment. We do rely on our regional partners and what they're charging for similar services, but it does come down to things like whether or not you have manual doors on your hangar or electric bifold doors on your hangar. So not all T-hangers are the same. Right. So for this year, we are just going to hope to proceed forward with our existing policy. And then as the summer comes and we have the opportunity, I'm looking right at Ashley, but she can't see me. I'm looking at it this way. This is in my budget request to hire that appraiser so that we have a chance to take a real hard scrub of our rates and charges and see what we need to do to stay in line with our community.
Very good. Anybody got questions for Bonnie?
One thing I saw was Red Cloud's rent went down. I'm sorry? Red Cloud looked like, everything had adjusted up due to inflation, but Red Clouds went the opposite direction.
That should not be the case. It must be a typo on my part. They are subject to the 1.4. If I misrepresented it in the memo, it was a typo.
Okay.
Fat finger issue. So theirs is subject to the 1.4.
Any other questions?
They went from 2,272 to 2,305.
Yeah, I thought it was 27 something. I need my glasses, didn't I? I thought it was 2772, it's 2272, okay.
It happens, sir. I do it all the time. I actually have, thank goodness for my teammates.
I think I even have my glasses
Get them
on.
to check it for me. I can assure you that if working with my finance team partners, if I mistakenly sent something that lowered it, I would get an email saying, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, the questions for Bonnie? Anyone want to make a motion?
Thank you very much.
Move to approve item 2.
Sir?
And I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item 2. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. New business.
Mr. Mayor, new business?
No business. Guess what? We're adjourned. No, we're not. No, we still have one more, don't we? I'm ready to go, I guess. All right, we'll move on to the Shawnee Municipal Authority. So consider approval of consent agendas. Item 1.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Darren. I think that was Daniel down there. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Who made the second?
Daniel.
You do.
We got all 7. Okay, passes 7-0. New business.
Mr. Mayor, new business?
Now we're adjourned. All right, good seeing you guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.